Hopefully I'll make sure I'm also muted and phone is muted. Oh, hey. I think we're on. So hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Angie Balserini. I'm the Community Engagement Manager here at Film Streams. So I'm super excited to present this collaboration that we've got going here today with Omaha Under the Radar. Many of you know that our theaters are closed and have been closed since March 13th and will be closed for a while. But we have still been trying to engage our audience and the larger Omaha community, trying to get creative. This is our first foray into like kind of creating our own content. I didn't do anything, but we didn't do anything, but luckily we have partnered with these fantastic group of people here, talented artists, composers, to offer this program called Resonance. It's a silence and concert program created in collaboration with select artists from the 2020 Omaha Under the Radar Festival. The composers featured in this program were paired with a silent film that complements the themes and complexities in their own work. And we hope these pairings highlight the playful, experimental nature of early filmmaking and the innovation of the festival's slate of musicians. So first I want to say how grateful I am to Amanda for working with us. This is just so cool, and the composers for creating this content. Also to our artistic director, Diana Martinez. She's the film buff that chose all the films to pair with you guys, and our talented staff, Travis Upshaw, he put it all together. So the film is actually streaming for free on our website from now until whenever. But we just want to like chat with you guys and kind of, get into your talents and see the idea, the process that you guys have going. First, Amanda. So I'm going to introduce you. I'll do this little tagline here that I have for you. Amanda is an Omaha-based soprano, improviser, composer, and organizer. In 2014, you founded Omaha Under the Radar, an annual 4-day experimental performance festival, year-round concert series, and educational program, which has presented over 300 individual artists in its first 5 seasons. Now, this is like mind-blowing. Tell us about how this started. Tell us about how it's evolved, over the past 5 years, and how has it been affected by COVID?
Okay, and I'll do all that in like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So I started the festival, it was the fall of 2013. I was starting it with a local theater professional who then a few months before the actual festival launch in 2014 had to drop out for personal reasons. So Stacy, who's also Stacy Relos, who's one of the composers tonight, she had just moved back to Omaha. She grew up here and she reached out, someone connected us and said, hey, do you want to just like get coffee? I'd love to hear about the Omaha music scene. And I was like, great, we got coffee. And I was like, do you want to run this festival with me? Yes or no right now? Because I just immediately knew how amazing she was. So she jumped in like 2 or 3 months before the festival. I can't remember, Stacy.
Yeah, it was right before. Yeah.
She's like, oh, okay. So we started it. It's always been application based, and we've always called it experimental. And that word is fraught, and it comes in and out of vogue. And some people like it, some people find it too academic. So, but we like to present things that are outside the mainstream, and we include dance and music and theater and all sorts of different kinds of time-based performance. So that's what we're about. And it's actually been 7 years now. This would have been our 7th festival, and it's folks from all around the country. We love to feature Midwest artists, especially because I feel like even in the Midwest, organizations tend to bring in people from the coast to present art for us. So we try to make sure every year that it's half people from the region, especially from Nebraska, and then half people from around the country. And And yeah, it's usually 4 days kind of crammed together, and it's overwhelming. And by the end of it, your brain is melted from just like watching and hearing and experiencing so many different things. But this year we've gone online. And so this is one of our events. We're doing some straight up live stream performances of things that people were planning to perform at the festival. And some folks are creating videos of new works that they've decided to create in response to what's happening. So we're presenting a variety of kind of online things. And thankfully we'd raised most of the money before everything kind of shut down. So we're able to pay our artists, and not everyone wants to do something online. So some people just aren't participating, but we're able to support our artists throughout that. So that's what we're doing this year. And then maybe Stacey, you could talk about Soundry. We have an educational workshop every year. It's about 5 days long that Stacey has created and run every year for like 5 years now. And so she did that online this year.
Awesome. Yeah. Do you want to go around kind of, Stacey?
Yeah, I mean, about myself or about Soundry or
All of it.
whatever. Okay. Well, I'm also Omaha based, and I'm a composer, performer, and educator. And Soundry is great. Soundry is an experimental music workshop, and it's for anybody, so you don't have to have music experience. And we do all sorts of things, and I've enlisted like half the people in these pictures here to help me with Soundry. But it's great. And we just got over our online week. We had our online week last week, and it was super fun. And I actually made some of those participants also write music for films because once I knew about that whole public domain site, I mean, there's just a treasure trove of stuff. Yeah. So they had a lot of fun with that.
Great.
Yeah.
Actually, let's go around here real quick and do little introductions here. We'll go Jay, Jesse, Jason. We'll do the dudes first here.
The Jays.
The Jays.
Looks like you're up, Jesse.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm Jesse Langen. I live in Chicago. I'm a guitar player and music teacher. I'm the guitar player for Ensemble Del Niente. I am half of Hasco Duo with Amanda. I'm going to change the topic away from me for a moment to confirm that Soundry is awesome. I remember, what was it? Was it even last year? I just remember a Soundry event with all adult participants, a performance that used a bunch of players from the festival as well as Soundry participants. And the vibe of all of my colleagues who were involved in this thing was the same as if we were, in a residency at a big conservatory or university. It was these pieces were like the pieces that we do at residencies, and these were adult, non-musician people who thought Soundry would be cool and participated, making these really really wonderful and interesting pieces. So check out it. If you can do Soundry, do Soundry. If you're not free for it, check out one of the performances. It's crazy. It's an unreal level for the kind of thing that it is.
Thanks, Jesse.
Awesome. Jay?
So I performed in Under the Radar a couple of times, and I've played with Jason. Stacey and I are working together. Amanda has performed with Mighty Vitamins. And for the rest of you, it felt so at home hearing that music. I mean, hearing accordion, because I was really involved in deep listening for a long time. And I was on the advisory board for a while. So it was like I mean, I know those people really well. I miss Pauline like crazy. And I'd like to say that somebody commented when Stacy played at my performance space, which is also this room here, except it's cleared out when it's performance, that she was a calming presence, which I think is a good thing for me and some other people that I play with. So thanks for all of that. And I used to, my home away from home was San Francisco for a long time. And as it's become like too expensive and now, travel is impossible, I think Omaha is. And it's so much more convenient.
Mhm.
And Stacy and I have been working on and casually on some other stuff lately too.
Yeah, so you guys partnered on 2 tracks. for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super cool. We'll get a little bit more involved.
Very
in that.
satisfying.
Yeah. Jason, tell us about yourself.
Hello, I'm Jason
Hi.
Zay. And yeah, I know a few people here. Amanda and I met years ago because I used to serve her coffee at the coffee shop when she was in grad school. So we've been acquainted with each other for a long time, and Jay and I go way back as well. I live in Kansas City right now. And I'm primarily a performance artist focusing on sound and media. A lot of the stuff that I've been working on lately has to do with basically training computers to generate secrets and using that as sort of the text for performance pieces. And here I am.
Awesome. And I think that Diana paired you with one of the most experimental pieces of film that she came up with.
Okay.
But
yeah, I think it worked out well. I think her selection process worked. So
yeah, she had a good feel for you guys.
yeah, it was good.
Molly, tell us about you.
Sure. I'm Molly Joyce, and I'm active as a composer and performer. I've been based mostly in Washington, D.C. this past year since September. And I compose for other groups, but I often compose on this vintage toy organ instrument, which I bought on eBay about like 8 years ago now, and it's from the 60s, 70s. And I really love it because it has these chord buttons on the left-hand side and a keyboard part on the right-hand side. So it feels very natural for my body to perform with because I have an impaired left hand from a previous car accident. So I was originally supposed to come to Omaha this summer with the festival to perform with the instrument, and I often add my voice. However, I was really grateful for this opportunity to engage with the festival in this way. And in the film I scored, the Maya Deren involves mostly my toy organs.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. Flannery, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So great to be here. I'm also very disappointed not to be in Omaha in person this summer, but it was awesome to get to sort of do some playing anyway. So I'm Flannery Cunningham. I'm a composer based in Philadelphia. I also sort of moonlight as a musicologist and as a singer, and hopefully those 3 things all kind of inform each other. So I was going to be performing a voice and electronics set. I have a sort of setup for myself for mostly sort of built out of pitch shifts and sort of loops I can record and built in this programming environment, Maximus P. And that's my sort of performance practice of kind of a hybrid voice electronics instrument. So it's a lot of fun to play with, and it also lets me feel not so nervous about singing solo in front of people, because that's something that, though I've always sung and always loved to sing, I don't feel that I have a very sort of, classical voice, and I for a long time felt very sort of uneasy about performing solo. So like Molly, some of that sort of found its way into the score for the film that I scored for this. And it's been really fun just to get to hear everybody's different work. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I think we'll go kind of in the order. And if anybody has, like, anybody out there in the Facebook world has any questions, on our website, we have the little bios of each of our composers. So if you forget anything and you need to look them up and have them, partner with anything, that's on our website. But so first, Stacy and Jay, I'm going to come back to you guys because you're both improvisers. You often work with unique instruments, toys, homemade things. So what did you use for the film? And did you like have a plan in mind, or did you kind of just like go with the flow? And you did two films. One of them was The Moon at 1 meter, which is 3 minutes long, and it's kind of the director, and I'm going to say this wrong because it's French, Georges Millet, probably is how you're supposed to say it. He was like a magician. So like in real life. So when he started doing film, like it was a very like trickster arena for him. So you have all this, like, it's this big moon face eating things, spitting things out. And like, he got to just like use film to kind of experiment with his own magic and tricks. So tell me about like the way that you guys, approached that.
Yeah, Jay and I talked about it, and we were going to focus on toy instruments for this because the films are so fun. And so we're not in the same location, so we experimented with some different sounds, and we traded sounds, and we talked about collaborating with that. And I'm primarily playing toy pianos. And Jay, as you can see in Jay's picture, he has amazing instruments all around, and he lent a variety of his. Maybe he can tell us what he lent.
Well, I have some at hand here because I thought this might come up.
Awesome.
So this is a modified, you recognize it, kind of a xylophone with keys that I replaced with brass parts, and there's that. I love these strips that come off the kiddie books. I don't know if they still make these, but you can find them at thrift stores, and they do things like that come through. So these sounds are, so I use these guys. When I first started making instruments, I would modify these old pre-electronic kid soundboards. And my favorite ones, I had a studio fire and I lost everything. And my favorite ones got burned up in that. But this worked fine. So this is on there too. And our thought was that since this was the infancy of film, we should probably use instruments that were for little kids. And I'm happy with the results. It was really fun working on it.
Yeah, it was super fun.
Yeah.
Tell me about the 30 seconds of the second one. It's the 30-second film, The Merry Skeleton. That one looked really fun to do. I mean, that's just kind of a weird little thing anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I was basically improvising a little dance for the skeleton on the toy piano, but Jay came up with the perfect bone sounds, and he's got like the skeleton head hitting the floor and everything. So yeah, I think that one worked out perfectly. Yeah.
I had a little bamboo guy. That's what the bone sound was. I have some bones, but they didn't sound so good. This sounded more like a bone. Actually, what this reminds, one thing about Jason's too that I thought was he's bordering on Foley, just like the stuff I do. And I love that place between Foley and music. And I think type piano is actually kind of in the same place. Because it's not pure. I like that.
Sure.
Awesome. So Jesse was the next one in the order of the film, and you did Poor Pete by director Charles-Émile Renaud. This is the French. Yeah. Diana's killing me here with these titles. But I'm sorry about that. So you did two, actually. You did the other La Tango by Alice Guy Flash.
Right.
She was one of the first women directors ever. I know that we had like a film about her last year, and Diana has taught about her. And it's a flamenco dancer kind of video. So you did one with acoustic and one electric.
Yeah.
The Poor Pete is one of the earliest surviving animated films. And so is that the one that you did that's the classical guitar with that?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So
And
yeah, tell me about those choices.
I think you had actually suggested classical guitar way back in an email for that one.
It was Diana that suggested.
Yeah.
Oh, no, wait. Yeah, Diana suggested. That's right. That's right. But I liked that, and I liked. I mean, two movies in a project like this from a guitar player, it makes sense that you might have two different kinds of guitar. And I definitely thought, for one thing, I don't want the tango to be classical guitar, because you see all these guitar players playing. So if you're hearing a sound like what those guitar players are playing, it runs the risk of being distracting at best. And also maybe isn't much of a contribution. So with tango, I felt like I'm watching this movie, obviously very early movie, extremely lo-fi movie that has all of this energy. If you compare it to, so when I look at these kinds of movies, so I taught film scoring for several years at the arts high school that I teach at. And one of the projects that I would have the kids do, sort of the end of the semester project, might be one of the silent movies from this period. So in particular, they did lots of Georges Méliès movies, which you were talking about Georges Méliès a moment ago. And Georges Méliès movies are often sort of very precise, not as kinetic as tango. Tango is maybe the most like crazy kinetic of those short silent movies that I know, that I've seen. And I'm not an expert at all, but I've seen a bunch of them because my students score these, score old silent movies. And it's just so much motion all the time. And the dancer is pretty athletic. I mean, she's keeping up a pretty high level of exertion for quite a while. She's doing all this different stuff and doesn't look like she's out of energy at the end of this, at the end of the clip. They just, had to stop the movie. So imagining seeing that, like as a contemporary, what that would feel like, seeing that in a movie, seeing all of this energy on the screen. And I tried to, so then I let myself think, what does that feel like for me? Okay, if I imagine going back in time and seeing this, and I've never seen a movie before, and then you see this movie of all these musicians and this dancer that's so tremendously kinetic, what would that feel like? So that's I was painting what it feels like for me to watch that movie, imagining that I'd never seen a movie before, I guess is the way I approached tango. And then with Pierrot, I imagined, so my first instinct with Pierrot was, oh, I could do this in some kind of stylistically, some kind of period way. I could do this as if I was a guitar player in a movie theater accompanying this with music at that time. Then I realized, I don't know if that's the most interesting thing I can do. And it's also not particularly experimental. And I think our theme was experiment. So then I thought, well, there are elements of that are probably inescapably resonant. So for any of us composers, you know, you're looking at Pierrot, and we're all thinking expressionism, right? Unless we're thinking, I don't know, 17th century, but maybe we're all thinking. I'm thinking you're looking at a silent movie, Pierrot. Maybe we're all thinking expressionism. So I thought, well, what if I take that kind of language, but I reduce the bit rate, or I add insanity. So now it's like a crazy guitar player in a theater, in a contemporary theater, accompanying a Pierrot story. So I guess those processes were quite different. With Pierrot, I improvised over and over and over with the movie until I felt like, you know, okay, this is Columbine's theme, and this is Arlequin's theme, and this is the moon, and so forth, until I felt like I had stuff that I liked that way. Where with Tango, I just thought about it for a long time. And then I put a bunch of guitar pedals on the floor, and then I started subtracting pedals until, but I was really doing that before I generated any of the music. I kind of had a picture for what I wanted the sound to be like before I started playing.
Thank you. Jason, so you're an interdisciplinary artist. Yours was like the most, well, and we got the little video of you too on the side. So we got to watch you in that process. And it was, tell me about like where that came from. And so you were paired with Down the Hudson. It's a 1903 film, pretty significant. It was Armitage played with the film rate to give the audience the sensation of catapulting down the river at a high speed. So he actually manipulated frame rate, which I don't really know what that means, but and it was like kind of its ability to speed or slow up time on that. So tell me how your choices of sound went into that.
Yeah, so I think that pairing me up with this film and sort of giving me this this task was pretty timely in a lot of ways, because we're kind of in this quarantine situation, and so I've had a lot of spare time to do home improvement projects, and one of those projects was finally installing this smart surveillance doorbell in the front of our house. And as I've been walking my dog every day, I'm seeing that lots of people in my neighborhood have these weird surveillance smart doorbells, and I find that kind of alarming. And so I was sort of thinking about, like, what does it mean that people are installing all of these surveillance cameras on their front doors, sort of watching the world pass them by as they're locked inside their houses? And so that was part of it. And so having this Down the Hudson film presented to me, I thought there was an interesting parallel with, this film is made at a time when film is sort of a new and cutting edge technology, and they're using it to kind of visually tell us a story about something that is ultimately very mundane, just the scenery passing by as you're going down the river. And I was thinking about the Ring doorbell as a contemporary parallel to that this is the new technology that's becoming more and more ubiquitous. And why don't I use that as a way of watching the world move by a very mundane scene from my front porch, and sort of pair those things together? And I think the other thing that for me was particularly timely about this project is that as my job right now, what I'm doing is setting up Zoom webinars for board of trustees meetings at the community college where I work. So like my whole life exists in this video grid kind of space right now, like a lot of people. And so in the presentation of the film, I tried to kind of recreate that kind of grid structure of the video with the main film, the live video feed from my front porch directly from the smart doorbell, and then a little bit of other stuff up in the top right.
Awesome. So Molly, you were paired with the Maya Deren film. I think Diana wanted to choose like the longer version. I think it was called of hers, Meshes of the Afternoon. I think that's like the famous Maya Deren film. But she found this wonderful short for you, and it's got this really beautiful movement. So I know that you have a solo album that you just released of your original work. So tell us about that. And then also, like, is there any link with what you did? Like, was it inspired by that at all?
Sure. Well, the solo album involves like the vintage toy organ instrument, as well as my voice singing on it, and kind of electronic processing of both sources, and what I like to say, kind of a creative and artistic exploration of kind of acquiring a disability, and thus asking kind of possibilities from the end of physicality, or when movement and sensation leaves your body. So it's very much like physically motivated in a way. And I think a lot of my work focusing on disability as a creative source, obviously, especially with the physical disability, myself thinks about physicality and movement all the time. And I've been collaborating with dancers and disabled dancers more recently. So I'm so excited to be paired with this kind of dance film, and also Maya Deren as I took this anthropology class in undergrad, I remember, and they talked about Maya Deren a lot, so it was nice to be kind of recognizable to me. And I think with this film in particular, I don't mean to sound like cheesy, but I think I really tried to just follow her movement and editing and everything, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like there's kind of a break halfway through the film where the dancer, that she kind of involves the full body more, and they start moving much more fluidly and actively, and just following that and serve that the best way possible. And also, it's kind of a random fun fact, but I think at the end, the pose that the dancer does, I don't know the exact name of that, but I've been doing some kind of bar classes recently online with this whole COVID everything. And I feel like every time I saw that pose when I was scoring, and I was like, oh my God, those muscles are so hard or something. So that was an interesting, more whatever personal tie during kind of quarantine times.
So tell us about your new album.
Oh, sure. So it was released, I guess, a few weeks ago on New Amsterdam Records, and yeah, involves the voice, my organ, and electronic processing of both sources. I entirely composed the music for it, the lyrics, performed it. I believe it was recorded in about 8 countries or so over the past, like, artist residencies over the past about 3 years now. So I always had this kind of mobile setup of my organ, just one like SM58 regular vocal mic, and then yeah, going from there, my interface, and then was really grateful for this engineer Michael Hammond based in New York, kind of brought it to sound a little better than the kind of self-recording situation. And yeah, it feels good to have it out now.
Awesome, congrats on that.
Thank you.
So Flannery, yours, apparently I heard that you went around recording your home, like went around your home recording different like glass clinking sounds, right?
Well, yeah, basically there's a lot of like glass imagery of like glass slides and stuff in the film that I was paired with. So I was really trying to find something that felt like appropriately glassy sounding for that. And in the end, the best thing was just putting like 3 ice cubes in a glass and like swirling those around. But then I had to run up and down from my studio to my freezer because the ice cubes would melt pretty fast. So that was a kinetic experience.
Yeah, so I guess that the filmmaker, Henry Chomet, is an experimental filmmaker. He thought that film shouldn't really be representational at all. The power of cinema lay with its ability to make strange the grand, and grand like the everyday. So just like what you're saying, ice cubes as this music, a score. So yeah, tell me about the process when you watched the film and what you were thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. So while I don't share Shamet's view that if I'm thinking about music instead of film, that like music needs to be non-representational, I still like really deeply appreciate the kind of space that that kind of like statement carves out for all of us. So I really wanted to try to like engage with his work sort of, you know, on his terms. So I was trying to find things that felt appropriate to the sort of spirit of like the imagery of the film and the motion without being, you know, something that necessarily felt like it could have been a sound that came from that. It had to feel tied to it, but also, you know, in keeping with his sort of non-representational thing. So there are a bunch of different sound sources. So there's some, you know, some vocal stuff with me singing and processing that in various ways with some pitch shifts and some sort of spectral sort of gates and holds and kind of effects. There's a little bit of me playing hammered dulcimer, both with the hammers and with bowing it. So if you've never seen a hammered dulcimer, it's kind of like a budget piano. It's like if you took the guts out of a piano, just the strings, and then you're using little hammers in your hands instead of, you know, pressing a key that presses a hammer. So hammered dulcimer, voice, my ice cubes in my glass, and you know, those process in various ways, you know, lots of pitch shifts and layering of that, and making a whole bunch of recordings of that to sort of figure out one that had the right kind of dynamic arc for a particular section. And yeah, it was really good fun for me. It was, you know, the film, it starts with this sort of glass imagery and a lot of sort of different like these glass plates and slides, and they're spinning and turning and showing up at different, you know, sort of points on camera. And then the end, there's this sort of strange turn to all of a sudden we get these trees and this nature imagery. So there's a real kind of shift in the last, you know, couple minutes of the film, which I tried to sort of, you know, I wanted to build something that still all felt connected, but, you know, honored that shift, and that felt sort of different there. So then I've got a big sort of droney thing where I'm bowing the lowest string of my hammered dulcimer and doing a little sort of vocal improvisation there. So it was really great fun for me. I really enjoyed it, particularly because I think in common with what I would have performed at Omaha Under the Radar, this was something that really freed me from musical notation. You know, I wasn't thinking at all about how I would put on a staff what I was composing for this. And that's in contrast to a lot of my other work where I am writing for performers who are reading from notation. And it's so freeing to not have to worry about how it would be written down. So it's enormous fun for me when I get to work in that way.
Awesome. So Diana is checking out the comment section on the Facebook Live thing just to make sure that we, like, if there's questions from the audience. But while I'm waiting for her to do that, we have like a lightning round. So everybody's going to answer just real quick. I'm going to start with Amanda, and then we'll kind of go backward. Heck yeah. Because we didn't get into like, you didn't have one of the films. So
Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. So first question for everybody. What are your top 3 movie soundtracks?
Oh gosh. Can we not start with me?
All right, let's start with Stacy. She's ready.
Oh, am I? I can't even think of a single soundtrack. I mean, I loved 2001 when I was a kid. And other ones. You are really putting us on the spot.
We'll just do 2, top two movies.
The first cassette tape I ever bought with my own money from like babysitting was the soundtrack to The Lion King as a kid. And that was a very proud moment for me. This is going to sound super random.
It holds up too.
I really liked the soundtrack to Phenomenon with John Travolta. It had some great songs in it, including this really great Taj Mahal track that got me into Taj Mahal. So I appreciate that a lot. And then Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Freaking rocks. Mm-hmm. And that introduced me to a ton of artists that I didn't know. before then. So those, I guess, are three that really stand out to me randomly.
I'm ready.
You're ready. Good.
So the sound design in Interstellar was actually really good, especially in the theater. Some friends and I have been doing like a virtual movie night together from across the country, and recently we watched Legend, and the Tangerine Dream soundtrack on that is so good. And really the movie sort of is basically a Tangerine Dream music video, and if you approach it that way, it's actually good. And the last one, so when I was a little kid, there was this French movie called Gandahar, and in English it was called Light Years. And I remember looking at the cover and thinking it looked awesome. And we rented it and I loved it. And my dad spent all night like painstakingly manually editing out all of the talking so that he could give me a tape of the soundtrack for that movie. And like I think that warped me as a child and sort of like set my taste in a weird direction. So Gandahar, French animated
Gandahar.
film. It's weird.
I'm checking it out. All right, Jay.
One of the first records I bought was the Neil Hefti Batman theme song from the original TV show. I think I still like it. I haven't listened to it for decades. And I like the soundtrack for Eraserhead a lot. And what else? I had another one in mind, but pick another David Lynch movie. Blue Velvet's a great soundtrack. There you go.
Heck yeah.
I'd say something different next time asked, but that's
Exactly.
accurate for right now.
Awesome. Stacy, did you think of another one?
Yeah, I remember I think it's called Only Lovers Left Alive. It's like a vampire movie.
So good. Yes. Tilda
Yeah,
Swinton.
I saw it and it was kind of like a dark time for me, and I don't remember who did the soundtrack, but it's really atmospheric and dark, and that was great. And thinking about influences as a kid, I also love the Close Encounters soundtrack, and sort of related, definitely related actually. My dad just made a recreation of Devil's Tower in his backyard. He put a little alien on it.
Nice. Flannery, I'm going to pick on you.
Sure. I don't know if I can do three, but like Jason, I actually really like the soundtrack for Interstellar, and kind of keeping with the like space-ish theme. I also really like the soundtrack for Arrival. There's some great Joan LaBarbera stuff on that, and that was like awesome. So that's probably it if I had to pick one.
You're reminding me of that.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. So that's what I would say.
A little spacey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Molly, Jesse?
Okay. My choices are probably a little more mainstream. I love everything and anything John Williams, and especially I think Schindler's List. I feel like it was one of my first whatever musical pieces I really loved that encouraged me to compose. And I also just on my mind. Well, I really like also I think soundtracks that I kind of came into when I used to play in band in high school, like Pirates of the Caribbean. Again, anything John Williams. And there's one other, but I'm blanking on it now. That I have. Anyway, that's my main picks.
Sweet.
Okay, so I might answer some questions that are close to this question. So I have favorite musical moments in movies, which Jay bring up. David Lynch reminds me of one of them. So the saxophone solo in Lost Highway, I think, is one of the greatest moments of music happening in a movie. The blind flute player in Ron, Akira Kurosawa, Ron. That's one of the greatest moments of music happening in a movie, to my mind. And Jennifer Jason Leigh stealing the microphone and on stage in front of a giant audience and doing a bunch of crazy rambling in Georgia. I don't know if anybody knows, if I'm making a bunch of obscure references here. So then any TV themes by Bear McCreary are genius to my mind. The Walking Dead theme and Battlestar Galactica theme come to mind in particular. And then this isn't Bear McCreary, but the theme for Breaking Bad, to me, really, the theme music for the show really encapsulates everything that the show is about. So, but every Bear McCreary theme does that. It's like he understands everything the writers are going to write for the whole show before they write it, and puts it all in the theme.
Awesome. Okay.
Can I
Next
add
question
two
for the,
things?
what's that?
I was just going to ask if I could add two things.
You
One,
can.
speaking of TV themes, I read something recently about the music for Seinfeld, and apparently the guy who composed all of that music basically built a sampler instrument with all of those sounds, and he performed each transition individually for each cut between scenes on that show, which I think is kind of awesome. But the second thing, I put a link to that Gandhar soundtrack in the chat here if anyone is interested. So
Sweet. We'll put it on the Facebook comments too for the audience. So there's no audience questions yet, but Diana wants to know from each of you. We're continuing this lightning round. Usually there's about 5. I think I've got 3, 5, 4. But Diana wants to know if you could pick any composer, dead or alive, to create your personal theme song, who would it be? Amanda, we should put you on the spot again, but Stacy, she knows.
Yeah, I'm ready. I was just thinking about him, Eric Satie. I'd go with Eric Satie. He's crazy, whacked out guy. Love him. Yeah. Amanda, go ahead.
Oh, probably maybe Gillian Welch or Valerie June, if anyone knows her. She's like country folk blues songwriter. Check her out.
Awesome.
Memphis Minnie.
Now, is Memphis Minnie and Stacy yours? Like, are these ones that we should know? Like, are they kind of like obscure that only musicians?
You'd know one of Satie's pieces, primarily piano. He's like at the same time as Debussy, so French, turn of the century. Yeah.
Okay.
My mom is a painter, and she's really she got really into Satie a little while ago and wants me to do a piece about Satie, but she's done all this cool reading, and Satie evidently had 10 identical mustard colored corduroy jackets made for himself, so he's definitely an eccentric guy.
I think some people are naming more pop artists, though, not necessarily Beethoven variety, which is great.
Yeah, Amanda with the Gillian Welch. I'm just like, yeah, I know that one.
So for a while, I stumbled on a box of 178 RPM records back in 1972 or something, mostly spirituals. And so I started looking for them, and I ended up briefly living unhappily in West Virginia with a girlfriend. And I got some great stuff there, including this Memphis Minnie record, Black Rat Swing, which is maybe my favorite song. And I played different versions of it in bands when I was playing in those kind of bands. And I just love that stuff. So that's where it comes for me. And you look her up online, you can hear it. Fantastic stuff.
Cool. Awesome.
And I still have those 78s. They're plus I got a bunch more that were when R&B was turning into rock and roll, but it wasn't called that yet. So I've got a bunch of these records that everybody should have heard, but that didn't get distributed. Wonderful stuff.
Awesome. All right, who else? Should I pick on people?
I can go. Oh, Jason, you go ahead.
I was just going to say the only thing that I can think of is Kim Gordon from Sonic Youth, but I'm not sure that I have a good reason for that. I just think she's wonderful. So
I was just going to say this Irish fiddler, Cuivín O'Reilly, he's actually like, I don't remember if he's a second cousin or a first cousin once removed or in some way related to me, but just the most amazing musician you've ever heard, and plays this sort of, hardong, it calls it the hardanger de more, like sort of hardanger 5-string viola violin hybrid. And it just this like amazing resonant sound. And I don't know, just it blows me away. So also a little obscure, but I would definitely say Cuivín.
Awesome.
May I add Zuthorn Rollo from Captain Beefheart's band?
Yeah.
Yes. Great slide guitar.
Molly, you were going to say?
I was just gonna say these pop electronic duo like Sylvanesso. I'd love to hear what they do.
Yes. Jesse, last but not least.
Let's see. Well,
You've had a lot of time to think about this. More
yeah.
than everybody else.
Do I get to have Miles Davis write my theme?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll make it happen. We're going to make that happen. Good choice.
So in case that falls through, I would like Josquin Desprez to write something for Cuivín O'Reilly to play for my team.
Oh man, I want to hear that. I want to get in on that soundtrack too.
I'm gonna go back and revise mine and say Kim Gordon recreating the sampler instrument used by the guy for the Seinfeld theme music, and that's my theme music. So
I think we're on to something now.
Heck yeah. Okay. This is going to be a fast one. I'm going to give you a minute to think about it. And then I'm just going to point and go. Well, I'll say your names because that's easier. So last question. If there was an instrument made after you, like for you, what sound would it make? And what would it be called? Amanda.
Okay, this is very abstract, but I think the instrument that would make the sound that would represent me would be whatever sound that Willa Cather heard when she got to the prairie and then decided to write about the prairie.
Like wind?
Nice.
Like the swishy,
Yeah, try to make the sound.
swishy with like a bird, just a
Yeah,
bird.
that sounds good. I like that.
Yeah.
All right, Stacy.
I can't think of anything, but probably would be some sort of music cluster instrument that just makes giant clusters, cacophonous clusters. Yeah.
I like that. Jay, you're ready, right?
Well, I made one. Right, the Space Needle.
Oh,
As a giant roar if you hit the bell, and irritating scrapes if you blow it.
are you going to give us a little sneak peek?
Well, let somebody else go and I'll plug it in. You can really hear it. I can do
Okay.
that.
Okay. Jason?
I don't know, some kind of brain implant that anticipates what I want to say and says it for me.
Okay. Flannery, how about you?
I really love sounds that feel like almost a human voice, but not. I have this piece, it's sort of like a voiceless choir piece, but where I recorded a bunch of samples of myself singing into a piano string, and then you get the resonance back, and it almost sounds like a voice, but it's kind of weird. So I think I would love an instrument where I could like physically play that, and it would be like kind of quasi vocal.
Nice.
I feel like we should be friends, Flannery.
I'm feeling that too.
Jesse, what about you?
I'm trying not to be boring, but I keep thinking, well, it's a guitar.
Okay.
It's a great instrument.
So maybe, maybe some kind of infinitely polyphonic pedal steel guitar.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Molly?
Like the Milky Way were an instrument, Jesse would play that.
The
Yeah.
Milky Way was a pedal, right?
Yeah.
Milky Way pedal steel. It draws lines. It draws curvy lines between the stars.
Nice.
It's a Max for Live patch or a Max patch.
I'm along the same lines. I think I would do some sort of other version, modernized version of my toy organ, maybe with like a sustain pedal or something, a reverb pedal attached to it.
Does it have like a quarter input or anything that you can like add pedals to it?
Not technically though, or though I think I can like, or some people have offered to kind of put that in, but I'm always afraid to like mess with it too much, I think so.
Cool. All right, you guys, thank you for joining us. I think that before we end with this beautiful sound from Jay, I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows to go to filmstreams.org, check out Resonance. All of your information, your bios are in there, and I just am so grateful that you guys worked with us to do this. It was super fun.
Thank you so much, Angie.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, really.
Thank you.
Awesome, Jay, do it.
Well, let's hope it doesn't get compressed out by the Zoom stuff, because this doesn't always work.
One more. I like this. This is awesome. I didn't hear that one.
I know
Not
it cuts
quite.
it out.
Yeah.
There's some settings that I don't know how to get to on Zoom. But
Okay. All right. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. We're going to end the Zoom or the Facebook now. Thanks for tuning in.